Hi, Jeff Merrill with a nice surprise visitor, someone who I haven't seen in a number of years, but I was a friendly rival for a number of years, Brian Calvert. He is a Selene broker, is a Selene owner, sold more Selenes than anybody in the entire world, and is a good friend. Brian,
good to be here.
Good to see you. We're in Anacortes, Washington. It's the Trawlerfest going on. Brian's come over. He's going to help Selene Americas, and he's also here to give a presentation on Saturday about cruising.
Yeah.
And there's so much to talk about. So let's begin way back, probably 2001, 2002. I was doing Nordhavn's, you were doing Selene's.
Right.
Probably met on the docks at the Lake Union Boat Show or something. And
Yep.
we got to know each other.
Right.
The same clients, we're looking at Nordhavn's, we're looking at Selene's, and Brian might have beat me more than I beat him as far as getting the deal, but we always remained good friends, and we always had a good conversation. We had a lot of respect. No bad mouthing, no negative selling. It's just different price points and different options on boats. But you went on and well, tell me, let's go back. So let's rewind back to you were at Friday Harbor Yacht Sales.
Friday Harbor Yacht Sales, and we were the Selene dealer.
How did you become the Selene dealer?
Well, that's an interesting thing. We were Island Gypsy dealer, and Harvey Halverson, who owned Island Gypsy, was involved with the marketing of the first Selenes, which were actually called Solos.
The Solos, right.
And then there were 9 Island Gypsy dealers in the country, and we were all told that we could become a solo dealer, but we had to buy a boat. We had to inventory a boat.
Okay.
And we did, and 3 other Island Gypsy dealers did. 1 in California and 2 on the East Coast. And it all evolved, and we were the survivors of that.
So which boat? You got a 43 Solo?
We had a 47. That came
47, okay.
in 2001, I think, or 2000. And we had it at our dock. We rolled the dice hard to buy that boat, and we sold it in a week.
Wow.
And we sold it to a guy real great customer that lived out of town. And so, he wanted his boat in Friday Harbor, which is a great place to have a boat.
Yeah.
But he wanted us to take care of it. So we gave him berthing in our dock.
And now you have a demonstrator to show? Oh my gosh.
What a... Everything. We sold from that on. The orders just bang, 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 bang for quite a few years. And
so you bought the Solo 47 sight unseen.
Yeah.
But as an Island Gypsy dealer.
I went down and visited Solo 2, which was the first 43 on the West Coast in San Diego. And the owner and the dealer in California kind of got to loggerheads. And anyway, I wound up delivering the boat to Friday Harbor with the owner. We came up the coast, and that trip sold me on Selene. This was your
first time to actually be underway on them. Okay.
43 all the way up the coast, bang, 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 all the way. And the thing was incredible boat in the sea. And we had it at our dock and eventually sold it. That boat now is resold, I think, 3 or 4 times.
Wow, yeah.
We sold it 3 times or 2 times. Anyway, and that went on for quite a while. And then 2007, my partner wanted to retire, and we wanted to, and Howard wanted to take more involvement with the dealership. So we closed Friday Harbor Yachts, and I opened Selene Seattle,
right,
in Seattle, and I managed it for 3 years. I gave a 3-year job notice. I said, I'm leaving in September 2009.
Now, did you have your own boat yet?
I got a 2005 Selene 48, and they jokingly called it the Mary Kay boat because I was the top salesman of the world. And we were real glad it didn't come in pink.
Yes, yeah, good. That's good.
So, and we used the boat for a lot of demos.
What hull number was your 48?
4823.
Okay.
And that's extension of the 47. So
right.
And I've had that boat for all these years, 20 years, and it's taken me halfway around the world. And I think there's about 8,000 hours in the engine now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in 2009,
that was the end of your 3 years,
2009? The end of my 3 years, and I jumped in my boat and went to the September boat show and tied up one night, and we had the big party, and I said, bye-bye, and went through the locks and headed to California.
Wow.
Joined the Fubar cruise.
Okay, down to Mexico.
Flew to underway Baja Raleigh, and from Mexico went to Puerto Vallarta and then headed across the Pacific Ocean.
So did you go to the Marquesas?
Yeah, went to the Marquesas, the Nuca Hiva Oa first, and then Nukuhiva. We pulled out of Banderas Bay one bright, sunny Mexican morning and put a waypoint 2,850 miles.
Oh my gosh.
Touched the nav button, set the throttle, and didn't touch anything for 17 days.
What was your longest underway run prior to that? Nonstop? 5 days, 6 days, a week?
6 days.
And how many days was it going across?
17 days, 7 hours.
Okay, you just so happen to remember that.
Yeah.
How many were on board?
When you get off of a boat that you've been on for 18 days and you hit land, you look really funny.
You don't have your balance right either, right? Yeah.
But
how many people crewed when you
there
were?
were 2 people on the boat with me. There was a young lady that crewed with us, California surfer girl. She was great. And then Bob Rizzle came with me. He was from my Seattle Yacht Club, and he said, I want to do the trip. He'd already done it around the world in a J-boat. And sadly, he was later one of the people that was killed by the Somali pirates.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And they killed us 4 people from Seattle. And,
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So we hit the Marquesas and then went through all of French Polynesia.
Did you have a game plan of where you wanted to go, or you just kind of free?
I kind of got there, and at one point in time, I thought I would do the Ring of Fire and go back to Seattle. And then my finances worked, and this worked. I really didn't have to go back. And so I decided, then I thought, well, I'll go around the world. And then we got to Thailand, and that's when that pirate attack happened. And then going up through the Red Sea. And so that stopped everybody.
Don't want to do that.
Nobody wanted to do that. And so finally I spent another year in Thailand, and I realized, I'd spent some time in Indonesia and Thailand, and I realized I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to go back, and Southeast Asia is wonderful. Why would I?
Oh my gosh, you see the pictures and you've done a lot of writing for Passage Maker and your blog. There's a lot of great information. We'll put that here in the video so people can follow that and see what you've done.
The blog, Further Adventures, you have to spell further wrong.
Well, tell me about the name of the boat, because that's a good story.
Yeah. Well, the boat was, I'm a old, hippie. and the Ken Kesey, the author of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yes.
In 1964.
And the Merry Pranksters.
Yeah, and the Merry Pranksters, that's where they came from. And he loaded up an old school bus, and they painted it with all these wild colors.
Right.
And they might have got a little high on the way. Anyway, when they put the name on the bus, they spelled it wrong, F-U-R-T-H-U-R.
Yes.
They later corrected it, but it was F-U-R. And so that's where the further comes from.
Yeah.
And
you've gone further and further and further.
Well, I had that in the back of my mind way back several boats earlier, and that someday I'm going to have the cruising boat. I dreamed of going cruising my whole life.
Take off and go.
And I'm going to name it Further. And
I don't know of any other boats that are named that. Have you ever?
Yeah, there are a couple.
Okay.
And we're all deadheads, and there are a
yeah,
couple.
Yeah, you got the dancing bears back on the transom. Yeah,
and Jerry Garcia's hand with the finger gone. And,
yeah.
All that stuff on the back. I just talked to the Prism guys that did it. And anyway, so that was why I named the boat. So we crossed the Pacific. We went through French Polynesia and then to Cook Islands. And matter of fact, in the Cook Island, there was a guy with a little FM radio station. And I met him, and he said, and my other friend said, he's got a whole bunch of 60s music. And I said, well, I've got a lot of dead stuff. And he says, so he had me come into a Sunday morning.
You did a radio show?
Grateful Dead radio show.
Oh, that's awesome.
Rarotonga.
And all 15 people heard you.
Yeah. Saying, well, this is great. And I put a whole bunch of dead music on a thumb drive and played it. It was a hoot. Yeah.
You were probably playing a lot of cassette tapes at that point, right? They weren't live streaming shows at that stage. No,
it was all. So then we went to the island of Nui is an amazing place. It's this little tiny island in the middle of the Pacific, and it looks like a birthday cake. You come up on it, it's flat on the top and round, and all around it are volcanic caves above the water and down below.
What country is it part of?
New Zealand. It's a protectorate of New Zealand.
Okay.
And the interesting thing about Nui is there were quite a few people there and some small towns and whatnot. And they had a whole bunch of cyclones hit them hard. Oh. And then they put an airport in on a flight to Auckland, and 20,000 Nuians took it And so there were only 1,400 people left in the country.
They all flew out?
Yeah.
They flew out of the cuckoo's nest, so to speak.
Yeah. And so we rented bikes, you go in the middle of the island, and there's this whole towns, churches, schools.
Abandoned.
Houses abandoned. Yeah. Just, they said, if you want a town, just come and have one.
Oh, my gosh.
So then we went to Tonga and Fiji and Vanuatu and New Caledonia.
Now, how many years are you into it now by this point?
This is about 1 year. This is from March. I had to be in Australia. I had to be below 20 degrees south by November 1st.
For insurance?
Insurance, yeah. So we got to Australia, and we stayed in Australia for 8 months. We wound up in Brisbane. We went down to Sydney. Yep. We're underneath the Sydney Harbour Bridge for New Year's Eve fireworks, the biggest fireworks.
Yeah, Pam and I, that's on our bucket list of things to do, but you did it.
Anchored right underneath the bridge. We
in your own boat. That's
6 o'clock in the morning, and they just put out the markers where you can anchor, and we anchored there. By that night, it looked like seafaring. It was packed with people.
Yeah.
Right underneath the bridge, and we saw the Sydney.
What year was that then?
This would be 2011.
Okay.
To 10 to 11.
All right.
New Year's.
Yeah, right. Switching from 10 to 11. Okay.
So, and then we went up the whole coast of Australia and wound up in Darwin, and we joined the first Sail Indonesia rally. And there were 110 boats.
Were you the only powerboat?
I think there was one other. And it was a very well-organized, really fun rally. So, we did the rally going across the Pacific, which was much of a virtual rally, mostly designed to get you out of the requirements at French Polynesia. At that point in time, they had a requirement of a $2,000 bond per person per boat.
Okay.
You had to put up the $2,000, and then when you left, they'd give it back. They were trying to make sure nobody stayed.
Yeah.
And that has all changed, and people are staying, and now they're having another problem with overcrowding. But
well, there's an island in the Pacific that's got some towns that they could go move into.
We love rallies. It's a great way to travel, especially if you've not been to the country. In those days, getting into Indonesia was not easy. There was a very complicated process, and the rally made it just smooth. We went to one place.
So you fast forward to today with Starlink and having the internet on board. You didn't have any of that stuff when you crossed.
No.
So what did you do for weather
and the single sideband radio, which is shaky, and I did have a sat phone. But we had the sail. You could get sail mail, which is actually based out of Friday Harbor.
Interesting. I didn't know
that. You could get the weather faxes.
But you're a licensed Coast Guard captain, so you're a lifetime mariner. You know a lot of the stuff. You didn't just go across the Pacific.
No, I studied it for years and studied, and so. But going across the ocean was pretty easy. Navigation was easy. We didn't see anything. 18 days, we didn't see a boat, a ship, a whale, nothing, and.
That's almost disappointing.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you want a boring trip, right?
We had people say, "How was it?" And I said, "If I can describe my trip across the Pacific, it was boring. And if you can describe a trip across the Pacific as boring, it was a good one."
That's a good trip. Yeah. You don't want the excitement stuff.
Yeah, we got into Hivoa, and there was a big bay and all the anchors there, and a lot of cruisers when they were all coming in. We didn't see any of them going across, but they all just.
As you have traveled now for 13 years, 14 years, how many other trawlers have you seen out there?
A few.
But it's more sailboats than trawlers still.
Far more sailboats, by far. But, anyway, so we're in this pizza place, and all these guys there's guys that single-handed in a 28 Cape Dory.
Oh, my gosh.
2 guys in a West Isle 32, and they didn't have any fuel, and they got stuck in the doldrums, and they had breakdowns, and these guys were all telling their stories, right? And I turned around to this one guy and I said, "I know, it was hell out there. Halfway across the ocean, our ice maker quit."
Yeah, they're screaming for ice. Yeah. Ice is civilization.
Yeah. So anyway, the Sail Indonesia rally was wonderful. We got into Indonesia, and it is another world. And everywhere we went, the dancing groups came down. The people were amazingly friendly. The Indonesians are so open and so unprotected that a lot of the Westerners, it kind of get put off in the beginning. We're used to having our Star Trek rivers, our shields up.
Right.
They don't have any. So they're right in your face, they want to know all about you. And
very welcoming and friendly.
Very
But
welcoming.
if you're not used to that, it could be
Yeah,
a little
like,
bit,
ooh,
oh, yeah.
And they want to have their picture taken with you. Picture with you, sir. Picture with you, sir. You'll wind up walking down the beach. You'll have the picture taken with 30 people before you get to where you're going.
Wow.
And I had one woman around, hand me a baby. She went, what are we going to do with that picture with you? So, and then that rally took us up through Singapore, and then up the Malacca Straits to Thailand. And I stayed in Thailand a couple of years and went back and forth to Indonesia twice.
So you're fully retired on the boat?
Yeah.
You're not worried about an income coming in. You've already you did that when you sold 150 Selenes in your earlier life.
Sold out the company, and I didn't have any encumbrances. I didn't have any. My ex-wife helped simplify my life.
Okay.
Well, so I mean, my needs were small, and
you had your boat. That was your home
for and everything, So I maintained it. That's probably been the biggest expense, is maintaining the boat through all this, but. You come out of Indonesia and you anchor the last night, right on the equator, literally drifting across the equator one time. You swim across the equator and stuff, and you're in this remote area, and there's a little teeny village over here where they're living in stick houses above the water and dugout canoes, primitive, right? Hasn't changed in 1,000 years. And then you come out of that little bay and you crossed the Singapore shipping lanes.
Oh my gosh! And then you're in big civilization.
I've got a picture I'm going to show in the display of my AIS, my
just
chart, my plot
filled
with the AIS. It's
triangles.
You can't see anything. It's just the AIS government. And so, and then you go into Singapore, which is the most modern, beautiful city.
Amazing. I've been there. Yes.
That's probably the biggest cultural change you'll ever see.
And that's within 2 hours of each.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
In the afternoon. So then we went to Thailand, and like I said, stayed in Thailand for a couple of years. And we went back to Indonesia twice, back and forth. And then somebody, an old yacht broker friend of mine from Seattle, Carl French, says, came to visit, and he says, you got to go to the Philippines. So, okay. We'll go cruise the Philippines for a year maybe or something, and then we'll come back. And that was 13 years ago. And
once you got to the Philippines.
And I met my wife, and we cruise in the Philippines now about 6 months a year. And then we stay at the marina. And then I'm coming here now a couple months a year. This is the rainy season there. This is a good time to get out of there.
Okay.
But most of the year, the weather there is...
So it's May of 2025 as we're filming this. Yeah.
It's just starting to rain there a little bit. And by next month, it'll be full-on rainy season. And then it's over in September. And I found the Philippines to be the most amazing boating place in the world. There's 7,600 islands, endless, beautiful anchorages and white sandy beaches.
Now, are there many trawlers there?
None. There's very few boats.
Not yet. Hey, everybody watching, time to head there.
Right. Yeah, you don't see many trawlers. There was a 36 Selene, and another Selene, the young bloods came to visit a couple years ago, but they were kind of going on their way through. But, even Thailand and even a little bit in Indonesia, there's a lot of cruising boats. But the Philippines, so we were 1 year we were anchoring every night in some beautiful, incredible place that you dream about your whole life.
Yeah,
alone.
And you're by yourself.
Yeah, and my wife finally says, let's go find some friends. It's kind of lonely. So we actually got on the internet and found where a bunch of our cruising friends were, and went to join them. But you could cruise indefinitely.
As an American in the Philippines, are you welcome? Obviously.
Absolutely, very welcome. And the government welcomes us. A foreigner with a foreign flag boat can stay in the Philippines indefinitely. The boat can stay indefinitely. I've been there 13 years. I've left once to Indonesia and back. But
so you're a U.S. ensign. You're a U.S. Coast Guard documented boat. That's a welcome.
I can stay in there. I have to do different varieties of visas. You would have to renew your visa every 2 months and sometimes every 6 months. It's very easy. Just go boom, boom, boom. I I'm married, might be so.
All right. Well, that's a solution.
Because I'm married to a
And
Filipino.
you've had a lot of work done at Subic Bay, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's anything you need facility-wise.
Everything you need on a boat's there, and shipping from America now. We found out how to do it. It's once again, it's a black art. It's not a science, but there's wiggles in the Philippine rules that allow a Philippine company to ship to us easily.
If you want to know how to do it, we have the guy who can help you figure this out.
I can get, and then we ship stuff from China. Just boom. I just ordered 2 big lithium batteries, and I got them for quarter of the price they would cost in the States. And they were on my boat in 4 days.
So the boat's in the Philippines right now. You're out here, and your wife and son are coming out for a motorcycle trip, right?
They'll be coming to British Columbia in the middle of this month, and we have another motorcycle. We'll be doing a couple months tour, and we're going to be doing something like that every year. Eventually, we'll get our U.S. visas for her, but that's a long
separate process.
Yeah.
So back to Selene's and the yard and Howard Chen and building this brand up, because I have to say, you really did put Selene on the map. You and Friday Harbor Yacht Sales, your partners, but it was interesting that, I mean, that's a great, San Juan Island's an amazing spot, but Friday Harbor is not Seattle. I mean, it's not mainstream. No. And to be able to do all that. So did you find most of your activity happen, people come to Friday Harbor, or was it when you were down in Seattle doing boat shows at Lake Union?
It came from people looking for us, coming to Friday Harbor to buy a boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people we met at the Seattle boat shows and stuff. Every once in a while, somebody would just happen to pop in Friday Harbor and we'd talk to them. But most of them, it was a deliberate trip. One thing is Friday Harbor had 3% less sales tax from Seattle.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good advantage.
So, and people love being in the island, and we could get a moorage there and all that stuff.
But you started out with the Solo 43 and the Solo 47. Then you watched Howard set up the other yard and get everything going. And I don't know how many models there are right now.
Yeah. Well, most of our boats were built in the original Dongwon yard.
Right.
Yeah. And it was right towards the end. He built the other yard and moved. And we were.
How many times do you think you've been to the yard? 20, 30?
50 probably.
50? Yeah.
Over more than 10 years. And I used to go once a month and stay 2 days.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a long flight for a 2-day visit.
I'd get on a plane on Monday and it took 2 days to get there, and then I'd be 2 days there, and Friday come back, and of course you know that you wind up coming back
before you left. Yeah, right.
Because I fly out of Vancouver. It was closer to Friday Harbor. And I had my little Cessna, and I'd fly it to Vancouver Airport. And they'd let me fly in there. And I'd live it. So one time, I'd landed, and I think I had some breakfast or something at the airport. And then I came around the airport to pick up my airplane. And I'd paid for the breakfast. I paid for something in Hong Kong. And I paid for the breakfast in Vancouver. And then I paid for my airplane being there, and they knew me really well, and so I handed her the card, and she's down there behind this desk, right? And pretty soon she hands me this phone. She says, "Your credit card company wants to talk to you."
Yeah.
And I had a charge to the minute at exactly the same time at the Hong Kong airport and the Vancouver airport.
That's pretty impressive. That's pretty cool.
10:27 a.m. I was in both places.
Oh my gosh.
On the same day. Yeah.
Where do you think, what advice would you have for somebody who wants to buy a trawler or buy a Selene? Now that you've done this, you've helped build the brand, you've sold a lot of boats, you've cruised yourself. If you could tell people something that you wish they would already know, what would that be?
Well,
any advice?
Sadly, most of these boats are never used to their potential. And people are apprehensive of leaving the country and going to different places, which is really a shame because it's a wonderful world out there. And the Selene is a perfectly capable boat.
Very capable boat, yeah.
And so, you know, a lot of people buy these boats, and I think they just fear and apprehension keeps them from, you know, it's a big deal to cross an ocean.
It is a big deal.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of people who would enjoy it. I understand that. And that's why, you know, people get their boats and they keep them in Subic Bay and tour. That you can cruise all of Southeast Asia, the best boating in the world, for the rest of your life and never go to the same place twice. I mean, it's...
And so what kind of distances are you talking about? Like no more than 100-mile trips?
There's only, if you wanted to do the whole loop around Borneo, which takes you down into Malaysia and around and back into Indonesia and back the other way, and then maybe go up to Thailand and come back down and then go back to the Philippines, which you can do in a year. There's maybe twice you'd have to do an overnighter.
So when you did your trip to the Marquesas, that was 17 days, I think you said. Yeah. What was your next longest? Did you had some 5-day trips, or were
the rest of them were 4 to 6 days going across? Boom, boom, boom. And we had near perfect weather the whole time. Matter of fact, John Neal, sailboat guru.
Oh, right. Mahina Mary or something like that. John and I forget her name.
Well, he's an old friend from Friday Harbor. And he would come to the Seattle Boat Show every year, and we would get together and have a meal. And sometimes we would run around Green Lake and stuff. He and his New Zealand wife, we got to be great friends. And every year I'd say, "I'll see you in Tahiti," and he'd go, "Yeah, right. Yeah, everybody says that, right?"
Right.
So I'm in Tahiti, and I'm talking to somebody on the radio, and I hear this further. This is Mahina.
Yeah.
And he's right around the corner.
Oh.
So we got together with him, and he gave me the advice that was great. He said,
Amanda Nielsen. Yeah.
Anyway, he said, basically you're following the trade wind. So it's going to go downwind 15 knots all the way to Australia. And that's not a bad way to go, just nice. But he said, for you, about every 3 weeks, a low pressure will blow up from New Zealand and come straight across the trade winds. And you'll get a little wind with that and some rain and whatnot. And he said, if you cut right behind that low pressure area will block off the trade wind for about 4 days.
Wow.
And so we would do that. And most of our crossings were in flat water.
Weather is a very big, important part of the cruising. And if you know the secrets, that you can make it a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, that was good for us. The sailboats were following us. They only did it once. They said, I don't like that wind. They didn't have any wind.
Right. They want the wind, and you want the flat.
Wind, yeah.
Well, I remember talking to Bruce Kessler a couple of years ago, and he was one of the people that kind of helped pioneer the whole weather routing. And everybody was looking, all the sailors were looking for the wind. He said, I'm on a powerboat. I want no wind. If they can find where the wind is, they can also find where the wind isn't. Let's work on that angle.
Yeah, that's what I mean, most of it's going downwind all the way across the Pacific. It was quartering seas on the starboard side, and then you went to the doldrums, which is what the sailboaters hate. We just went straight through. We didn't change course at all. And then once you get out on the Southern Ocean, then it's on the port side.
So you have a 48. How did you figure out, because you were looking at, I mean, obviously there's a budget involved, but that's a very manageable size.
Yeah.
And has it ever felt too small?
No.
Because I know where we can find another boat for you. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
I would love to have had the 53 with 3 staterooms looking back at it. And I'm not going to want captain and crew on the boat and everything. So, it's a good size. And there are a lot of places that I've been to where I was the biggest boat that could go there. Little anchorages.
Yeah, under 50 feet gives you a kind of a magic ticket.
My yacht club I belong to, Porto Galera Yacht Club, has a beautiful mooring field, but I'm the biggest boat they'll let on the mooring field. So there are some advantages too.
Some of that you planned, and some of it you just got lucky on.
Yeah, it just happened. Yeah. But there's a downside to getting bigger too.
When you ordered your boat, how long did you have to wait for it?
About a year. Yeah, that's the typical. Yeah, and it came.
And did you do anything special that you?
No, I'm basically stock boat. We changed that was when we were changing the basic layout to the offset galley, and but pretty much stock boat. I was the first one to get the QSL engine instead of the QSB, which is a bigger, stronger, slower, engine
and more fuel efficient.
Yeah.
But this was before Common Rail, wasn't it?
No,
it was a Common Rail. Okay,
it was one of the first Common Rails.
Okay, then all right.
And so, there was a lot of it shrank my engine room a little bit.
Yeah, all right. You got a bigger engine.
We cruise at 1,000 RPMs at 7 knots. So,
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
What is your fuel burn average?
At 2 gallons an hour at 7 knots.
Okay.
I'm a liter guy now with 8.
Oh yeah. Sorry, yeah, you gone metric on me, man. You went native and then you went metric. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we cruise at that. We cruise at 7 knots. If I go up to 8 knots, it almost doubles the fuel.
Yeah.
So 7 knots is our typical cruising.
What does fuel cost in the Philippines?
I just got a text from my wife. It's down. It's now 49 pesos a liter. Now figure that one out.
No, I can't. Yeah, but it's about $5 a gallon here.
It's under $4 a gallon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it just went down. It was up around 61 pesos. The peso fluctuates around 55 and up.
55 cents on the dollar?
It was up to 60 here a while ago, and then it dropped down again. The dollar got weak. And that's good. When I first got there, it was down in the 40s, so it's improved steadily. And that makes a big difference with your cruise.
What did you order on the boat that you don't use or that you wish you hadn't ordered? Anything?
No, not really.
You really had seen so many boats and really understood.
I pretty much knew what I wanted. I have electronic control. I just had an issue with electronic controls after 20 years. One of the solenoids went out, and we're dealing with that. But that was, 20 years.
It's pretty good.
Service
You got pretty good. You get your money's worth on that.
The one thing I have on the boat, and it was interesting talking to Dylan today. The one thing I have on the boat that is on my would not leave home without it list is the articulating rudder.
Yes.
Now, I have one of the original Bo Edison articulating rudders.
He kind of pioneered that as far as production and so on. Yeah.
And it's made a phenomenal difference, both in handling and in particularly going downwind, following seas. It reduced the rudder activity by.
You're on autopilot for all that time.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not hand steering, but the rudder's still moving. And if you have the articulating rudder, there's not as much drag, right? It's running truer.
And going in, we were in 6 foot swells, big long ones, and the rudder's just going instead of going so a lot less wear and tear on all the stuff. Gets a straighter line. Evidently, probably cuts the fuel usage down.
Well, you've had flat calm, flat seas, no wind. What's the extreme that you've had? I mean, people like to know what's the worst you've seen.
People always ask me about crossing the Pacific in the storm, but I said I've seen way worse weather between Friday Harbor and Seattle.
Yeah. It's good practice right here in your home waters.
I've had some nasty trips. That Seattle Boat Show, January, taking boats down to Seattle and stuff. But crossing the Pacific, we didn't see anything of any. It was pretty standard 6 foot swells.
But a lot of periods,
seconds,
just big roll.
Long swells. And in Southeast Asia, there's been a couple little blows. But
you must have been through some cyclones and different things, hopefully at anchor or in a marina.
Typhoons in the Philippines.
Typhoons, okay.
Depending on which way they go, right? We're northern. And we did actually get caught in one. Typhoon watching in the Philippines is a national sport.
Okay. There's enough of them?
Well, there's enough of them, but the coverage is, there's a TV show that covers typhoon.
Okay.
Yeah. And monitoring them in windy we use. And basically, they never go to Subic Bay. Subic Bay is far enough north, and it's surrounded by mountains. So if they are going that north, they go straight up and hit.
So you're pretty protected in Subic Bay.
Well, one time we were in Puerto Galera the day after Christmas, and the typhoon was predicted to go to Subic Bay. Normally, if I saw a typhoon coming, I beat feet back to Subic Bay.
Yeah.
But this one's going to go to Subic Bay. And it didn't. It turned and came right into Puerto Galera. But we were in a very secure mooring in a very protected little bay. But we had 100 knots of wind and no visibility. I went outside, tied some stuff down. I actually had to put my dive mask
your scuba or your snorkeling mask. Wow, yeah. That's pretty
And
extreme.
some boats got damaged, and the other mostly because the boat would break loose, and there was a lot of damage to houses and stuff. You could literally watch it on the computer going right up the channel, the eye of it. The eye went, and you could tell as soon as the eye went by, the wind changed, and it went from you can't see the bow of the boat, rain, and 100 knots of wind to dead calm and sunshine within about 45 minutes. It was crazy.
That's pretty wild.
Let me tell you a little bit about living in the Philippines.
Okay.
one of the things that is incredible is the opportunity that we have to be a really good person that you really don't have here.
Interesting.
And I mean, there's little things you can do that cost almost nothing that go so far. And twice now, there's been typhoons, and we have found a family that lost their house. House was gone. These little cinder block stick houses just fall over, right? And so the one that we were in, we've met this family, and it was a old single woman with a bunch of kids, and we went up and talked to her, and her house she was on the side of the mountain. Her house was just smushed. And so we went down, and this is the second time I've done this. We went down to the local lumberyard building thing, and they kind of know what it takes to build one of these houses.
Sure. Yeah.
And I bought all the materials it took to rebuild this woman's house for what you and I would spend going out to dinner in a nice restaurant if we drank a bottle of wine. For about $200.
That's a very good Samaritan.
Yeah,
and
for $200 and some odd dollars, we bought two people who lost everything in the world a new house.
That's phenomenal.
I mean, that makes you feel good.
That is good for you. That's really good. Yeah.
And I'm going to talk about it goes the other way. The Filipinos are so generous and so trusting. My wife lives at family. It's from a very small barangay is what they're called, a village, in the south end of Luzon Island. And you can't get close to it, really close by boat. And actually, they're on the Pacific side, but we're on the east side. And so there's an island there that's nice that we decided we could anchor in front of this island, and there's a little town, and she could take the chimney and go. I think her sister was with us. Go
see her family. Yeah.
And I wanted to go to the local hot springs, which is about half hour away. So we were sitting there. We had this idea that we're going to do this, and we anchored the boat, and this little banca, which is the Filipino boat with the pontoons out, outriggers, comes out with a whole bunch of people on it, and they're circling us. And they're taking pictures, and they're circling us, and finally they come by, and the guy goes, "Can we come aboard?" And I go, "Sure." And it was the mayor of the town.
Oh.
And the whole town government. And they all came on, and we all had our pictures taken together.
Oh.
Picture with you and picture here. And so I told the guy, I said, I really need to rent a motorbike tomorrow. And in most towns, there's a place you can rent a motorbike.
Yeah.
Motorbikes are the primary source of transportation. But somehow, so the next day I get there, and somehow they couldn't find a motorbike to rent. And I said, that's okay. I don't need to go to the hot springs. And they go, no, we got it for you. And they roll up this little small dump truck. And it was the sole possession of this town. And they said, we want you to take our truck. So I said, okay. So I got a little dump truck, 5-speed diesel. First of all, I used to be a truck driver. And I drove to the hot springs. And I brought it back. I put some diesel in it for them and brought them. Can you imagine it?
No. I think that's a great story. That's hilarious. Yeah. Well, and even inviting people on your boat, that's kind of a no-no, but you read it and you knew it was right. Right.
Yeah. No, the children come out and they play around the boat with the little boats. And one of the things I'll talk about in the talk, one of the tricks that I learned that opened up so many doors, it was like a portal into the culture, is I got online and I learned how to tie balloon animals.
Oh.
And I will go sit in some little beach anchored out near a little thing, and I've done it all through Southeast Asia, and start tying balloon animals, and children come from everywhere, right? And I'm making them little doggies and the little crowns and all this stuff.
That's
and they
really
go crazy
fun.
for it. And of course, eventually, Mom comes over to see what the kids are doing, and sees this and invites me into their house and for a meal. And,
oh, wow.
And we're having a fiesta Friday, and we're roasting a pig, and the chief wants to meet you, and all this because I tied some balloon animals.
Oh, wow.
It was
Well, I've been told a lot of cruisers will take magazines because they don't normally get that, or crayons, toys. Try to stay away from the candy thing. I mean, let's not pollute them with our sugar toxins, but oh wow, Brian.
Yeah, we brought a whole bunch of coloring books and crayons and some little girl stuff, and we gave a lot of that stuff away. But the balloon animals were the real trick.
That's
Just
good.
love the balloon animals.
What's your favorite animal to make?
Yeah, little doggy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get really good at it. Like
You don't have to be that good. You're doing something no one else can do.
We were in a little beach in Bali, and we're on the tail end of this rally. So we were cruising with 4 or 5 boats. And my friend said, I really wanted to talk to you about something, and I didn't know how to find you, but I kept seeing kids with balloon animals going this way, so I went this way. I'm sitting under this big, beautiful banyan tree, surrounded by these beautiful children tying balloon animals.
Oh, wow.
You can't buy those experiences.
No.
This is
but your Selene got you there, so you could do it.
Selene got me there, and you could go to 5-star resorts the rest of your life, and you're never going to do that. You're never going to have that experience. And this is what cruisers get to do.
Yeah.
And you got to be open to the culture. You got to be, there were some people we were cruising with who never did understand those stuff.
How many times would you come back to the United States once you committed and got going? I mean, were there years that went by in between trips?
The first time I came, well, let me see. I've been back. Now we're coming back every year.
Yeah.
But before that, I was back maybe 3 times. I got to Australia. My dad passed away. I had to go back. And then I came and talked to the Trawlerfest, I think in 2013 or something like that.
Okay. Wow.
And 14. So then I didn't come from 14 till 2 years ago.
Wow.
So
yeah.
So
you're self-contained on your boat, and you've got the family and the lifestyle.
We live in when we're not cruising and we're not here on the motorcycles, which is a very short amount of time between the two. We live in this beautiful 5-star marina.
On your yacht.
Yeah, on the boat.
Yeah.
Live in the marina, and there's swimming pools and restaurants, and it's very urban. Mall across the street, and like I said, I'm in this, and everything in the Philippines has way more people doing. You could check out the grocery store. There's 4 people helping you.
Okay. Yeah, they got the manpower.
Gas station, and there's a guy on the windshield. There's a guy filling the thing. It's like it used to be.
Yeah.
And marinas like that. If you get out of your car with a bag of groceries, they come and carry it for you and everything.
Wow.
And it's
everybody wants to help.
50-foot berth is $300 a month.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. So, and all the costs there are incredibly cheap. The labor for the guys working on the boat just would shock you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a really top skilled guy that does most of the work on my boat, and he makes $15 a day.
That's affordable.
Yeah,
you can do a lot for that.
Well, honestly, he does a lot of stuff I could do, but bad back and everything, I'll let him do it and pay him $20. And then
he's happy, you're happy, and everybody.
Yeah, and there's skilled technicians there. Like I said, I just went through the whole Victron system, and that guy makes $50 or $60 a day. So so keeping a boat there is very reasonable, very cheap, and so.
How long is the run from the yard in China to Subic Bay? How many miles is that? Is that 800 miles?
Well, go down. You come from the yard in China. You have to come across the whole bay and into Hong Kong. And from Hong Kong, it's 600 miles.
Okay.
So it's 3 days.
Yeah. Good shakedown. Good way to get started on it.
Shakedown cruise, good. And the weather, most of the time, quite often there's like big swells behind you, but there was just a big international sailboat race from Hong Kong to Subic Bay. All the big mega yacht, and the spread between the first boat finishing and the last boat finishing was 4 days.
That's you want to be on the bigger, faster boats on something like that.
And the other guy, the wind died.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah.
And you can't use your engine on a sailboat race. So.
But then once you're in the Philippines, everything is day hops. Boom, boom, boom. They never spend the night in a boat. You wouldn't want a lot of little fishing boats out there and stuff. That's a little.
Do you do most of your traveling during the day then?
Yeah, all of it. Yeah. There's no reason to go overnight there.
Yeah, you don't need to.
No, you don't need to.
Get your weather and your light.
And they have one of the cool thing in cruising in the Philippines is you've got all these anchorages you can go to, but also stuck on these little islands here and there are these boutique resorts, very nice beautiful resorts with little cabins that people stay in and rooms and a swimming pool and a very nice restaurant. And most of them have little moorings. They love to have the cruisers come.
Oh,
So we go to these resorts and anchor in front of them or use one of their moorings. And basically the rule is if you're going to use our mooring,
come have dinner.
come and have dinner. Yeah, yeah. The one I go to a lot is they actually codified it. It's 320 pesos, which is a little over $5 a night for the mooring. But if you spend 500 pesos in the restaurant, it's free.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the money differences for what you get is phenomenal. That's why you need to get the boat and get out there and do it and go explore. There's other places besides the Philippines that have to be equally spectacular.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just so much to do. You've done a
Southeast
lot of it.
Asia,
Yeah.
All the South Pacific, Mexico, these are all great places to go. And, the Selene will take you there. It'll do it. Even the smaller ones. I mean,
What's the longest breakdown delay that you've had? Because you've been to some remote spots, so you needed the exhaust double from your generator, whatever it was.
Yeah.
A week or two?
Yeah, a week or two.
I mean, that's just not that long of a time.
You with your Trish and John, we
Tracy and John McBean, you met them.
yeah,
That's right.
They were in. I took him. It worked out great because he helped me with the technical stuff, and I guided him through all the wrecks, the shipwrecks that he'd never done before, and so we became great.
Well, you do a big scuba diver.
Yeah.
Are you still doing that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
I'm a
gosh.
dive master, and my favorite place to go diving is in Palawan and Coron, where there were 7 Japanese ships sunk in one day in this one bay, and all in less than 30 meters, 100 feet.
Wow.
And so you can dive on all of them. There's moorings on them, and you can go cut through. And I know how to cut through all of them because I worked as a dive master there for my friend's dive shop. So, but I had one of the solenoids on my ZF electronic controls died.
After 20 plus years.
After 20 years, yeah. And 8,000 miles. And so we got one shipped from America. I had the company in California, Seaboard Marine. They were great to work with. They shipped it to my shipper in New York, which is Johnny Air Cargo. And Johnny Air is the one who can get things into the Philippines. And they got it to Manila, and their agent there hand carried it to another small airport, to another airplane, who brought it to the island I was at.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that was fantastic, yeah.
It'd be kind of fun to be the part doing all that traveling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's you got to know how to do this stuff. There was a outboard motor part. I need a little fuel pump from my outboard, and the
$5 part type of thing.
Yeah, but except for the Mercury dealer in Manila wanted $60 for it, so I found it on eBay for $8, and it's in Singapore. This is 1,000 miles away, maybe.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I'll buy 2 of them, and I'll ship one direct to here. They had a shipping program and I said I'll ship the other one to Johnny Air Cargo in New York. So we went from Singapore to New York to Manila.
Which one got there first?
10 days quicker.
Oh my gosh, that's radical. Yeah. Wow.
Like I said, it's a black art. You got to know it.
Yeah. You figured out the systems.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I think we could keep talking for a long time, but it's probably dinner time, so we should probably go and do that.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I would, get out there on your boat and go see the world. It's a wonderful place, and it's just waiting for you, and there's nothing to fear. It's all the things you hear about Southeast Asia about being dangerous and this, that, and everything. I tell you, everywhere I go in the Philippines is safer than downtown Seattle.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that. There's just the unknown versus the routine, and you have to have a little bit of huevos and just go for it.
Yeah.
And it's benefited you amazingly.
Oh, incredible life.
Yeah.
And it's healthy. My last days were during the financial disaster and and I was going through a divorce. And the last days.
Yeah, 2009 was probably a good time to get out of Dodge,
Yeah,
but
it was not
2008
a
was
happy
not that
time.
much friendly. Yeah.
And so I went to have a physical before I left, and my doctor did the whole physical, and I had multiple stress-related ailments.
This is while you're still working, getting ready to go.
Yeah, getting ready to go. And 5 years later, I had come back, and I had to get my physical for my captain's license. So she did it. And she's standing there, and she's looking at the two files of this physical and the one 5 years ago. And she's looking at the numbers. She goes, "You're 5 years younger than you were 5 years ago."
Yep, the salt air, the lifestyle,
Oh,
the
yeah,
diesel,
yeah,
it's just all there.
yeah.
Well,
So I, like I said, go see the world. Get a trawler. Selene, of course, would be my preference, but go get one of these big full displacement trawlers and go see the world and do it while you can. Don't wait.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you wait too long, you won't have to worry about it because it'll be too late.
There's
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. There is no someday.
Yeah, good.
So I would say go do it, and you'll not be sorry.
Great advice. Brian, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good
spending time with you. Good seeing you. Thanks, everybody. If you want to get in touch with Brian, we'll have his information down below. I know he'd love to hear from you, and we appreciate it when you're watching these videos. So thank you for doing that, and we'll do another one at some point.
All right.
So thanks.
Well, you come to the Philippines and do one.
That's what we'll do.
Yeah.
Deal.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Okay, bye-bye. Hey, it's been another great day out on the water. Thank you for watching the video that just completed, and thank you for joining me on the JMYS YouTube channel. We do now have over 150 videos of different content. Thank you for watching those. I have a lot of fun filming these. If you'd like to subscribe, we appreciate that. Over 31,000 subscribers at this point. If you would like a reminder of when the next video is going to come out, you can click on the bell. We love it when you give us those thumbs up. Thank you for that. And I appreciate your comments. Not all of them, but most of them, and I try to respond to them. So thank you for them. Yes, these are the shirts I wear. They're Ren Spooners. I'm not changing that. We do have a couple other videos you can watch. You can click on one of these two over on the side. Please come back when you have some more time. We always have more content coming up on the JMYS YouTube channel. We thank you for your time, and we hope to see you again back here soon.